to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Bill Maher didn't just return, he came swinging. And his latest target? Whoopi Goldberg, whose fiery opinions on The View often stir up controversy. But this time, she met a rhetorical buzzsaw. Goldberg stepped into the debate with Maher, and what followed was a verbal beatdown that left no room for misinterpretation.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class? I mean...
Her recent remark, packed with contradictions and misdirection, were like blood in the water for Maher, who thrives on dismantling what he calls performative wokeness. Black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down, good jobs, and the police when you call them. If that's the case, Maher challenged, why didn't voters rally behind politicians who actually had policies addressing these concerns? This isn't Maher's first round with The View. His past sparring matches with Sunny Hostin set the stage for Goldberg's attempt to take him on. But instead of delivering a compelling rebuttal, her approach felt more like throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something would stick. Goldberg took aim at Maher's stance on Black Americans wanting economic stability and public safety, positions he framed as common sense. But rather than countering with solid arguments, she veered into tangents that Maher swiftly dismantled, exposing what he saw as yet another example of out-of-touch political posturing. She's flipping through the woke playbook like it's a manual for winning debates, Maher quipped, his trademark smirk spreading across his face. But here's the catch. When your strategy is built on straw men and misdirection, it's only a matter of time before it all comes crashing down. Maher's critique didn't stop at Goldberg's comments. He took aim at The View as a whole, dubbing it the political talk show equivalent of a train wreck. Painful to watch, but impossible to look away from. Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press, in politics, and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied. He didn't mince words, claiming that The View thrives on controversy while sacrificing nuance for the sake of sensationalism. The ongoing back and forth between Maher and the show's hosts has turned into a cultural spectacle, dividing audiences across the political spectrum. For Maher, this wasn't just a critique of one person's flawed argument. It was a broader indictment of what he sees as a growing trend of ideological rigidity and performative outrage. And with Goldberg standing her ground and Maher refusing to pull any punches, it's clear this feud is far from over. Whether you view it as a much-needed cultural critique or just another episode of political theater, one thing is undeniable. Bill Maher versus Whoopi Goldberg is a showdown you can't afford to miss. If you remember when Charlemagne the God made his daring appearance on The View, you know it felt like watching someone walk a tightrope over a pit of lions. The tension was thick, and after what unfolded, you couldn't help but wonder if he'd just visited some alternate reality. Here's the backdrop. President Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed champion of justice, stirred the pot by pardoning his son, Hunter Biden, after Hunter was convicted on corruption-related charges. The irony was almost too much to ignore. A president who swears no one is above the law suddenly turns into the poster child for family-first immunity. Hunter's guilt wasn't just a rumor. It was glaring, undeniable, like a spotlight in the dark. Yet for some reason, accountability never showed up at the Biden family meeting. Charlemagne didn't hold back, pointing out the hypocrisy. If the woke crowd demands accountability for everyone, shouldn't that principle apply to everyone? Seems like a no-brainer, right? Well, apparently not to Whoopi Goldberg, who twisted herself into logical knots defending Biden's actions. Enter Whoopi's Whoppers, where she boldly claimed Biden didn't lie when he said no one is above the law. Yes, Whoopi, because all the evidence, video clips, and sound bites clearly don't matter. Watching her attempt to spin this narrative was like watching someone argue that the ocean isn't wet while standing knee-deep in it. Even Charlemagne was taken aback, his expression screaming, "Did she really just say that?" But Whoopi wasn't finished. She went on to claim that maybe Biden had pardoned Hunter because he was tired of everyone taking advantage of him. As if this was some grand act of self-care. Charlemagne, usually quick to retort, was left speechless. This is the issue with woke logic. As Maher has often pointed out, the glaring double standard. When someone outside their bubble makes a mistake, the outrage machine roars to life. But when it's one of their own, the moral compass goes haywire, and accountability becomes an afterthought. Whoopi and her crew might have thought they could spin their way out of trouble while Charlemagne was on set. But when Bill Maher caught wind of their antics, he made it clear. What followed was nothing short of a verbal execution, a takedown so sharp it left Whoopi Goldberg's arguments in tatters and sent the woke mob scrambling to patch things up. Bill Maher couldn't have hit the mark harder. The self-appointed arbiters of truth and morality, those in the woke crowd, once again exposed their own glaring hypocrisy. Hunter Biden's guilt, unquestionably clear. But thanks to his father's position of power, accountability vanished into thin air. Imagine if anyone else were in Hunter's shoes. The mob would be out for blood, but when it's one of their own, suddenly justice becomes a fluid concept, bending to the whims of political favoritism. Maher wasn't shy about calling out the farce. This wasn't just about Hunter, it was about an entire system that caters to the elite while cracking down mercilessly on everyone else. But here's the real kicker. The question isn't whether Maher's critique was justified. It absolutely was. The real question is how long Americans will tolerate this blatant double standard. The hypocrisy doesn't end with Hunter Biden. Maher didn't miss a beat in pointing out the mainstream media's role in perpetuating this charade. Remember when outlets scrambled to bury Hunter's scandal, dismissing it as Russian disinformation despite overwhelming evidence? Their goal wasn't to uncover the truth. It was to protect the Biden family and derail Donald Trump's re-election campaign. Free speech took a back seat while opposing voices were silenced. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, jumping right in to defend the indefensible. On The View, she eagerly joined the chorus, brushing off the allegations with a blend of indifference and condescension. But Maher wasn't having it. He shredded her excuses, dismantling her arguments piece by piece until her credibility lay in ruins. His critique wasn't just about taking down Goldberg, it was a broader indictment of The View itself. What once could have been a platform for meaningful debate has become a breeding ground for ideological gatekeeping. Dissent is met with ridicule and scorn, and Goldberg's dismissive attitude has become her trademark. A subtle wave of the hand, a condescending smirk. But Maher wasn't intimidated. He saw through their tactics and called them out for what they are. Not a space for conversation, but a shark tank where opposing views are torn apart. His takedown wasn't just a critique, it was a wake-up call that intellectual honesty still has a place in public discourse, even if it's becoming harder to find. Bill Maher's unrelenting attacks on the woke mob continue to hit a nerve, exposing their activism for what it truly is. A thinly veiled attempt to bully anyone who dares challenge their narrative. For viewers tired of one-sided stories, Maher's no-holds-barred approach offers a much-needed dose of reality in a world dominated by groupthink. In his latest jab, Maher called out the left for their refusal to accept Trump's 2016 victory, branding their reaction as pearl-clutching denial. He didn't steal it, cheat for it, or conjure it out of thin air, Maher quipped. He won because millions of Americans liked what he was selling, even if it made the progressive left gag. But Maher didn't stop there. He urged the woke crowd to stop scapegoating Russia, racism, or whatever the latest trending excuse may be, and face the hard truth. Democracy means sometimes the other side wins. It's not a glitch, it's the system working as it was designed, he said. His advice? Stop playing the victim and start strategizing for the next election if they hope to have a fighting chance in 2028 or even 2132. Maher also shed light on why Trump appealed to so many voters, something the left often ignores. Not every Trump supporter is a die-hard MAGA zealot. Many simply felt alienated by the left's sanctimonious sermons and the woke mob's agenda that seemed to defy common sense. People didn't vote for Trump because they loved his tweets or his tanning bed glow, Maher said, sarcasm dripping from every word. They did it because the alternative felt like a lecture from a self-righteous vegan at a barbecue. If the Democrats hope to reclaim the electorate, Maher suggests they abandon fringe ideas and start focusing on policies that resonate with everyday Americans. Otherwise, the woke mob's antics will continue to backfire spectacularly. Maher's critique didn't just dismantle Goldberg's arguments. It left her standing in the wreckage of her own contradictions. Her attempt to discredit him was met with a masterclass in logic and wit, solidifying Maher's role as a thorn in the side of the woke mob. Maher's response to the latest Goldberg debacle? A clinic in wit, logic, and unapologetic humor. He wasted no time highlighting the glaring irony. A co-host of The View, a show supposedly all about championing diverse opinions, lashing out at him simply for having a different perspective. Tolerance, Maher quipped, apparently only applies when you agree with them. Maher's sharp critique cut through the noise, exposing the hypocrisy of the woke echo chamber. He described the environment Goldberg and her colleagues thrive in as one where loyalty to the tribe trumps critical thinking, and dissent is met with disdain rather than discussion. It's not about having a conversation, Maher explained. It's about enforcing. And that's why they can't stand me. His deconstruction of their flimsy reasoning wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a performance. Like a maestro wielding sarcasm and reason, Maher painted a vivid picture of the intellectual dishonesty plaguing these so-called progressive spaces. Watching him tear apart their absurdities was like watching a virtuoso at work, his instruments, logic, and unrelenting humor. For those tired of the monotonous echo chambers dominating public discourse, Maher's takedowns offer a lifeline. His ability to expose contradictions and turn the narrative upside down provides a rare glimpse of clarity in a world drenched in performative outrage. You love to speak truth to power, Maher concluded, and we always should, but you've completely lost the ability to speak truth.